Hello everybody and welcome to the second part of my tutorials. In here I'm going to teach you how to create a horror game, a computer game that can be played by you or your friends, and we're going to do this using three programs: Autodesk 3ds Max, Photoshop, and Unity, which is a game engine. My name is Igor Aherne and I'll be teaching you through this lesson. Let's get started. As you can see, I've added some models, and it's a cage for humans or animals, which looks quite scary. It has a door which can open and close. I have also a cart to place in inside of my locations, and you can see that it's kind of old and already used a lot because its axles are bent down and perhaps there is something heavy inside. That's why you see this bent. I have a torch which can be used as a decoration for my levels, and a pier where the boats can be tied, and the pier will be sticking out from the shore, or maybe it's going to be on one side of the river, and the player will have to sit in the boat and travel across the river and confront maybe some ghosts on the river as well. So those are models that can be used in decorating my level, and I'm going to show you a couple more that you can make using the skills you already know. So first half is gonna be creating the models, and the second part will be showing how to texture, what texture is, and what a Unwrap UVW modifier is, and how it helps you to texture the model correctly. So since I've done all of those things, I really don't know what else I could show you, because I already have different objects in my previous scene. But I think we can make some kind of ruins of a building, and it's probably going to be ruins of a house which was 2 stories tall and now is destroyed, and you can see the bricks lying around, and its walls are kind of falling apart, so it can be placed in the ruins of other buildings. Because it's going to be a separate object, we're going to start by creating a box and then modifying it to get the shape of our ruined building. So let's draw a box, like so. Right click, convert it to editable poly, and straight away press M to open your material editor and drag the empty gray slot on the thing, and maybe over here just change the color of segments to black when they are unselected. So let's continue working on it. Connect those 2 segments with other ones to be able to start out shaping the wall. Let's do it with 4. Select the segments and move them to the side. And maybe this one should stay here. And let's connect them once again. I'm going to do it by just dragging through them, because I'm in crossing mode that I've explained to you in the first tutorial. Let's connect them with 2 and pinch them so that they sit on the side. So we'll save ourselves time. Let's select the polygons and extrude them. And because it's ruins, we have to really change the dimensions of the walls in terms of height. So let's divide them into different segments and raise the height of each one individually. So maybe 2, and then 0 out the pinching from the previous time. Okay, this should be fine. Let's accept it and scale them out. It doesn't scale because we are in this mode, as explained in the first tutorial. So we can raise the distance between them like so. And let's raise this part upwards and bring it here maybe. Okay, and let's do this once again connected, but with 1 segment this time, maybe 2. 2 will be fine. And those segments are selected for us, so if we change the height like so, this should be fine. Now we need to do something here, because we cannot extrude those 2, since this will create a polygon. Have a look. This creates 2 polygons that are separate from each other and are not connected. We can do this actually. Just press OK, but then we'll have to kill this polygon, this one here, and target weld the vertices to each other. And now to make this polygon not bent, we need to bring them down like so, and it looks fine. So now we can continue working on shaping our walls of the building. Let's extrude this wall as well. Connect those segments with 2 and bring this one inside so we can use it for shaping our geometry, and this one as well. Let's bring this side down and raise this one up and bring this one down. Because this polygon is now bent, we have to connect it, and perhaps let's insert vertex into this one and this one, and also here and here, here and there. Now if we press 1 and switch to the vertex mode, those ones are going to be selected for us, so the only thing we're left to do is just to right click and connect them. Now this polygon is not bent outwards and everything is good. So if we continue working, once again I've extruded this part, but it's separate, so we need to kill those 2 polygons and weld the vertices together, or target weld them, just as I explained earlier, like so. Right click to cancel the target welding mode and bring those vertices here. But now this wall has to be destroyed as well, so now we'll decorate it with some damage. And perhaps there should be a doorway here, so let's make an arc over there. Let's extrude this one right like so. And extrude, actually connect those 2 with 1 and extrude this one like so. Connect here, connect there, bring it up and press 4, click on those 2 and bridge. Now you see that they are bent, so we need to change that. The polygons are bent. To straighten this polygon, let's just scale it like so in the Y direction. That will flatten it out, and we can then fix the last vertex by bringing it down to flatten the bottom polygon right there. And also we need to change this one here. Now this starts to look like it's ruins, and if we improve it furthermore, we'll get what we want. Let's connect this one with 3, and here we'll create a wall, a small piece of thing that remains of a wall. Press 1, go and target weld the hole that we've created for ourselves, otherwise we wouldn't be able to target weld. Okay, this looks better. Extrude. So instead we will just add more of the edges there. Connect like so and bring this one here. Okay, and to add the second floor, we'll probably have to extrude another floor here, or the remains of the second floor, which I think won't be accessible by the player, but will serve as a decoration to depict that it was a two-story building. And let's bend the floor here. So to do that, we have to insert the vertex here and then select this vertex and its neighbor ones, connect them, and just lower the floor. Now we'll have to watch that this one gets bent as well, so it has to be lowered as well, and those two have to be connected. Now if we add a few more details right there, you can see what I'm doing by scaling. I'm simply moving all the segments together into one plane so they are straight by just scaling in Y direction. And now if we take and connect those two, and to move it and not deform the geometry, just go into the edit geometry as I explained in tutorial 1 and move this one up just to move it like it's on the rails. And let's extrude slightly. Like so. And okay, let's see, we don't need those segments, so we can actually press delete on them and kill the whole polygon that holds them, and cap with go into the border mode by pressing 3 and capping. Okay, now we don't need those segments as well, but if we right click and if we just press backspace on them, this won't remove them. This will remove them, but will leave the vertices on them. So we're gonna press Control backspace, and this will keep the polygon, but will remove the edges, including its vertices. Control backspace them and connect like so. This will remove this anomaly and connect like so. Let's add the second floor. Let's extrude here and here, and uncheck this mode, go into the first one. This will scale them individually. This one won't go down and this one will not go up if we're in this mode, and just scale them in the Z direction to make them straight. And now select the second mode, select those two edges, this one and this one, make it not local but world, and scale them in the Z direction to make them flat. Bring them up to about the level of the highest point and connect them with the edge. That has to be also scaled in the Z direction to be straight. And now simply select those two polygons and bridge them. Okay, once we got this, it's time to add minor details, such as lying bricks and maybe piles of dust if we want. And let's make different variations for the bricks. Let's convert one of them to editable poly and maybe just change its dimensions slightly, like so. So now once I've added the bricks, let's add some kind of remains of bricks, so even smaller parts. This looks quite good, but we just need to add the big parts. So if the house would fall apart, there should be remains of the walls nearby, not just the small bricks lying around. So that's what we'll do. Let's not try to move all the objects away from the building, because we don't know what the terrain will be at the place where it's placed, and it might not be as flat as this one. So the more tightly packed the thing is, the better it will sit on the terrain. And let's add for the final touch the piles of rubbish. As you can see, everything takes quite a lot of effort and dedication, but those little things will make it look interesting and not same. So for the very final touch, let's add the holes and maybe smooth out some surfaces at the end. Right now I'm going to do a Boolean operation that I've explained in the end of the first tutorial, and you can observe what I'm gonna do soon. I'm going to shape out the look of the thing that my hole will take shape of. So have a look. Okay, so about here. We select the building, go into create and compound objects, and then click Boolean and pick operand B as this thing. But actually, first of all, let's undo this and let's make ourselves a copy, so we don't have to create anything else again. So click on the big building, and for operand B, let's click here and move. Should be selected. Let's go into the options of the building, open this up, operands, and pick box 030, which is mine. Let's move it somewhere here. And this also adds a nice split to the edge of the brick. So now if we convert it to editable poly and save the bent polygons, Okay, this looks decent. So now if we improve and polish, so-called, the walls, we can finalize the view of our building, and it's going to be totally ready to be exported in the game. The walls aren't always straight, so perhaps let's just move some of them to the side so that they are kind of bending. And then remove the anomalies that they cause. Okay, now if we attach everything together and call this ruins, now, in this half of the video, I'm going to explain to you what the texturing is. We have created ourselves a model that is a ruin of a building, and it's just a bunch of coordinates with vertices and edges which form polygons. This thing can be used as an obstacle in the game engine, or as a location where the player has to walk around, but without texture, it's going to look very boring. And right now it's just a gray mesh without any details on it. So how to do this? You're already familiar with the material editor, and this is used to give the models their textures. If we drag and drop this slot onto the object, you can see that we can change now its color parameters through modifying this slot here. And all of the options right here are referring to this current selected slot. So if we, for instance, change the ambient light, we can change the color of the model to red, but this isn't really texturing. And to texture something, we would have to go and click on this little box here and select the mapping option called bitmap, and you can see different types of options here, such as checker, for instance. And by checking checker, selecting it, this will infuse the whole model with squares like checkerboard does. And to view the current texture or the material, let's click this button here. This adds the whole checker style thing to the model and allows us to see it in the real time, and you can see how distorted the model is. If we unclick the light, you can see that having this surface here, the checkerboard has to be perfectly square, like so, and here it gets distorted, the texture gets bent and distorted across the whole model. So this isn't right, and this is all because of the wrong UV coordinates that the program interprets initially. To change this, there are several modifier panels or options available from here. If we select the whole model and we select the Unwrap UVW, we will be able to alter the coordinates, UV coordinates, and remap the whole model so that the texture will be applied to it correctly, and we can assign any texture to it. But right now I've given it a thought, and I think that those bricks and little parts, they are just copies of each other. To make it easy to show you, I'm just going to select the main building and just move it aside, like so, and perhaps detach it from the editable poly. Now if we go out from this editable poly, we can probably position it back and focus just on it. So with the big thing selected, we can go into modifier list and click U to get ourselves close to the list starting with U, and select Unwrap UVW. Right now you see that the whole big part is marked out with the green lines. Those are seams, just like on clothes when they are created, so that the program knows where to chop the model into pieces and what pieces are sliced off. Think of this as a paper origami. Your model gets unfolded and then laid out on the table, and this table is accessible right here. So now if we press 3 and go into the polygon mode, 2 to go to the edge and 1 to go to the vertex, but now we're just interested in polygon, and press Ctrl A to select all, we can then open the table layout and go into mapping and do flatten mapping by 45 degrees. This arranges our building into parts, so it cuts off the pieces and arranges them on a flat surface like so. What this does is it has a look at your texture that you supply to it, which is a square drawing, and it basically knows which areas to pick out from and to which polygons assign those areas. So now if we assign the material, the checkerboard, to the main part, you will see what's going to change. First of all the sides are now not distorted, and the checkerboard lies okay. Don't mind those little parts because they aren't part of our big thing. Actually, if we just right click and take hide unselected, that's what I'm talking about, and you can see that the main part on the sides, the lines are straight and the checkerboard doesn't get distorted as it did before. This is because now those flat parts, for instance this one, takes a look at the checkerboard texture, which is square as well, and just let's say if you imagine this is a checker, it just says okay, pick this area, and as you can see, whatever this thing surrounds, everything here will be preserved in a correct shape. So this is what's called setting and giving the UV coordinates to the model. Now we can go into the mapping or tools and go render UV template. This will allow us to render an image which can be used as a template in Photoshop to create a texture at specific areas that are going to be selected, and the texture will be drawn from those areas. We can do the texture size, let's do it 2048 by 2048, select the color that those areas will be filled with, and let's make it red or green better. And show overlap just shows you if your areas are sharing the common area on the texture, which is usually bad. So we'll show this with red, and those are problematic areas, so red should just say you, okay, this is a warning. And edges will just give you an understanding of the geometry of the model. But right now we don't need them, so we're going to uncheck them and uncheck the scene edges as well. And in here, let's select the solid thing so that it fills your areas with the color. And now we can do render UV template and give it a second, and it will give us a template. Now we can click this little button here, save image as, go out, and in my case just go to desktop and say, okay, let's go to save it as ruins underscore texture. Save it as a JPEG, and in my case the quality shouldn't be a very big issue, so we're going to reduce it to 85. Hit save. No smoothing. Okay, and save. Now we can go into Photoshop, and don't worry if you don't know anything about Photoshop, I'm going to explain to you in a second. We can click on this image and drag it into Photoshop. What this does and how Photoshop works is it works with layers. So this is a background layer currently, and you cannot alter it by default, so just right click on the letters and select layer from background, like so. And now we can alter this layer. With this layer selected, we can go into Magic Wand tool, which is W, and start selecting the similar color areas, and you can see the outline that is drawn. So if we press Shift instead of Control, because it's Adobe Photoshop, it's different. Shift to select multiple areas, and then select them all and kill the polygons that we've selected. Just have the black parts remaining, but instead we're going to be more clever and click Select and do Color Range. Click on the green and select all the green things. So this has drawn the selection around all the green parts, and just hit Delete on the keyboard. This deletes the green areas, allowing us to put a texture underneath the template and see which parts are going to be fitted where. So if we press Ctrl D to deselect everything, we can go and check what this square represents in our model. So this square is currently there, so if we press 3 and go into the polygon mode, we can click on those two things and see that it's floor. So nobody's going to see floor. That's why we are not going to bother with texturing this part, because it's going to be sitting underneath our scene, and it can be usually black, just to imitate and improve the shadow quality in case there is a hole in the ground and somebody's going to have a glance there. So maybe just make it black. And to do this, just select the Marquee Tool here. Make sure your layer is selected, your template layer, and just drag the selection tool here. Select the primary color right there, and probably just pick out with a picker. You can either select the color here, or just select a color from your scene, make it black. And to fill your selection with a color, with a primary color, you use Alt Backspace and Control Backspace to fill it with the secondary color, which is here. So if we make it purple or orange, if we press Control Backspace, this will give us an orange color, and Alt Backspace will give us the primary color, which is a black thing. Having done this part, we can now go and check what another part represents. This part right here is going to be with the whole. So the whole wall, like so, including the edge and little part. We want to make it like it's made from the bricks. So now if we go into the Photoshop and apply the brick texture to this part, this is going to add this brick look to our model. Let's see. Let's drag those red bricks into the Photoshop right on the top of our template, and this will create a new layer for us that sits right on top of our template. This is a raw object, and if we place it there and scale it down just like so, we can now position it underneath our template, but first of all we have to confirm the position of the raw object by pressing enter, and now we can drag this raw object underneath of our template, and this will give us an impression of how this will look like. You see that we've kind of arranged it over here, but first of all, before we do anything to this raw object, let's right-click it, right-click the layer and rasterize the layer. This will allow us to alter and add the differences to our current raw object, which is the brick walls. So right now, if we save the file as the ruins texture on the desktop in the JPEG format, save, and actually let's rename it to ruins texture 1. So save, and 8 should be just fine, maybe 7 even. Click OK, and now we can assign this texture to the model finally. Let's go into 3ds Max and assign this blank material to the model. Go into the little box here as I explained earlier, select bitmap and pick an image, not the 3ds Max ones, but go out where you saved it and pick ruins texture 1. Open it and assign it to the model. Now, as you can guess, everything that's marked out as blank will be seen by 3ds Max as white surface, and the bricks that are supposed to go onto this part will be displayed here. So if we drag it onto the model and click here to display it in the viewport, you can see that our house begins to look like it's made from the bricks. And perhaps let's just reduce the size of the bricks over here. So with this layer selected with red bricks, and if I show you what I mean, if I turn off the layer by clicking on the eye here on the template layer, but have the bricks selected, I can press Ctrl A to select the whole area of our canvas and press Ctrl T. This will allow us to scale down our whole canvas stuff and our thing with it, and let's press V and move it to the side like so, because we want to fit as many of bricks into the area as possible, like so. Hit OK, so enter, and file, save as JPEG ruins texture 1, save and overwrite, make it 6 actually. OK, and because we've overwritten our texture, the 3ds Max will detect it and update its model in a second, or it probably has updated it already. So with it updated, we can continue editing the parts on the different sides. So maybe this floor. Let's open the UV editor, click on the polygon and see which part it belongs to. So looks like it's this part over here, and let's add a texture of a dirty floor. So now we can add the floor texture to this part, and we can do this by going and selecting the floor texture or floor image, go into Photoshop and drop it onto the selected area. Let's resize the dimensions like so, and let's see what this little part is. It is over there, so it shouldn't be kind of necessary here, so we're going to move it away. But first we have to confirm that we want to place this raw object over there. Press enter and right click on the layer, rasterize it. Now press M to go into the Marquee Tool and select this region that we don't want with this layer selected, and press delete. Now press Ctrl D to deselect everything, file, save as, and save it as a JPEG format texture. And once again, let's call it texture 1. Save, rewrite, quality 7, 6 maybe, yeah 6. And go into the 3ds Max and witness the changes. so it's kind of facing the different directions. So let's maybe change the position, select your object and rotate it by 45 degrees, and to do this select the thing, press Ctrl T and click outside of the region and just rotate it. So this is called free transform, and we'll have to resize it so that it fits now. Now if we click save, you can see how we've changed the texture over here, so maybe even more, but you get the idea. A few more tools you should know is that whenever you have, let's say, a hole in one of your textures, so like so, and you want to fill it with something, you can sample from this layer that you're currently on and fill it, the same layer, fill it with the texture sampled from this layer. To do this, you have to go into Clone Stamp tool, which is this one, and which is by default on the shortcut S. To sample from an area that you want to copy, you have to press Alt, pick an area, and then unclick Alt and just start drawing on the empty area, like so. And if you say want to sample from here, you can sample and then start drawing here, and this will create a texture. You see how I have cross over there when I draw here. This is denoting the sampling area that you are picking on currently at, and it's going to move with your brush. Sample from different areas so that your thing doesn't look similar. And to roll back your actions, you don't press Ctrl Z, you press Ctrl Alt Z. Another way of fixing the hole would be if I erase it with the eraser tool here. Another way of fixing this hole would be to press B, go to the brush mode, and just draw with the color over there. So if we sample, press Alt to sample from this area, this will set the primary color, which is over here, to this kind of grayish color, gray-green. And now if we release Alt, because we've stopped sampling, we can now draw around, and you can see that it's not very good, but you get the idea of how to sample, and then sample always from the nearby areas, and then just draw on top. To create a custom selection which isn't square, you can go into this option here, which is a lasso mode, and it's kind of rude lasso because you can create a kinky selection. Just click on different parts and then enclose the selection by clicking the start point. This will create your selection, which will take a look at your current layer, and right now it's the floor. We'll chop off everything, or probably select everything from this layer, and if you press V, you can chop the pieces off that fall into this selection. And if we, for instance, switch to the template layer, we're going to work with the template now, and the selection stays the same, untouched, so you can drag and move the template as well. You can also add the selection to the current one by pressing Shift and adding the selection, or holding Alt and cutting pieces out from your selection. Another type of lasso would be the not rude but smooth lasso tool, and it's just going to look at your current drawing and then select from it. And the final one is the magnetic lasso tool, which looks at the regions of color at the same color and snaps your selection to it. So in the layer thing, we can snap along this black line. So have a look. If we click here and we start drawing along the black line, it snaps, and it actually looks at all the layers currently, so including the bricks right now, and snaps to the most obvious selection, like there. But you see that it snapped to the brick over here because I've moved it too far away from the black selection. So with those things described to you, the last thing to cover would be the blur tool, whose function is to feather out and blur the areas that the brush falls into. So have a look. In this selection area, if we work inside of it with bricks selected, we can blur out the surface like so and make the bricks blurry. However, you must notice that it only works inside of your current selection. So in order to feather and blur out those parts, you would have to deselect everything, so press Ctrl D, go out of any selection and feather out those parts. And notice how it feathers out the layer, not the image. So we are working on the red bricks, so it will be feathering out the red bricks. So Ctrl Alt Z to cancel everything, all the steps. And the opposite to this tool would be to sharpen everything, which is done with Sharpen Tool. And it does exactly the opposite. It sharpens out the areas, makes them look very bright after some period of time and quite sharp. And also any brush properties except for the size and hardness are also strength and perhaps opacity, such as in the erase tool. You can either erase with 100% accuracy or select the opacity to be lower, like 50 or maybe 30, and just erase a third of a texture. To zoom on the canvas, press Ctrl and space and left click and just drag left and right. This will zoom you into the image and working area. Text can be written by clicking T and writing text. This also creates a different layer over here, which has to be rasterized if you want to tweak it later. But once you do this, you won't be able to edit text anymore, so watch out for that. Pan on the image by pressing the space bar and left clicking, and you can pan across the image, just like so. Draw the line by clicking over here and selecting the thickness of your line over here. So 2 pixels will be kind of thin line, which will draw it with the primary color, so the gray color. And if we make it bigger, 20, this will draw a really thick line, also with a primary color. So now if I finish up everything here and show you the final look, we will probably finish on this today. One last thing to add is that I noticed how our number of layers is growing. So to merge them into one layer, we have to select the range and click the first one and shift click on the last one we want to select in the range, and then Control E to merge them into one layer. I want to show you the couple of effects that can be added to our current look of our bricks, and we can do this by pressing Ctrl A on the bricks layer and go into the image, adjustments, and the color balance. We can make it more blue or more yellow by just dragging those slides, and I want to make it look like it's kind of dead, so make it blue and black, like so. And then we can go and adjust it even more by going to exposure and bring down the exposure like so to make it look like it's it has less color. Image, adjustments, and I also noticed that I haven't selected this floor when I merged the layers, so let's click on the floor as well, press Ctrl E to merge it, and now we can continue adjusting. Like so. This looks quite freaky already. And now press Ctrl G to deselect everything, and let's have a look how it's folding on our model. This looks way better now. We just have several parts that need to be fixed, and maybe we just need to add more details to the walls, such as dirt splashes and anything else that we think of. Perhaps just change the texture direction and rotation over there. But apart from that, it looks good. And this is how you texture a model with a basic default marking out of 3ds Max, and with its basic interpretation of how the UV coordinates should be mapped out. When working with characters, it's going to be a bit different, and later we'll see how we can draw our own seams, our green lines, that will be blue then, and set the direction we want the 3ds Max to unfold the model. And then we will stretch it as on a pelt and create our own human texture, or the creature texture. Just to give you the last bit of the tips, I just want to show you how we can add the blood splash to the walls, which is probably very simple for you now, but just to ensure in your understanding, let's drag the blood into the Photoshop, onto the working area, press enter, and convert this raw object, so right click on the layer and rasterize the layer. Now if we hide all the other layers, you see that it has white area as an image, and we don't want to have it, so let's either press W to go into the magic wand tool and select the area and then delete the white area, or be even more neat, press Ctrl D to deselect the selection, and with this layer selected, with the blood selected, let's go into select, color range, and click on the white stuff, and you will see that white is everything that gets selected. We can even increase the fuzziness to get those last bits out of our borders, and click OK, and now press delete. So this got rid of all of the white stuff, and the thing is now transparent except for the red. And we can go and click on the floor D, and on our template make it visible, press V, and with our selection ready, make sure you are in blood and press Ctrl D to deselect it. Select the Marquee Tool and drag the area you want to resize. On the blood, once again, make sure you are in the blood layer, press Ctrl T and resize your thing to the desired dimension. And let's position it somewhere where we can see it. So maybe here on the floor. Let's see, open UV editor and see which thing it corresponds to. So over here, here. So if we move it and place it there, and when you move it, make sure you don't select this circle that sits right in the center of your image, because this is the pivot point which the thing gets rotated around. So if you move it out, this is going to move the pivot point just like in the 3ds Max, as I explained earlier. Let's rotate the blood splash like so, put it here, and it still needs further adjustments. So let's Ctrl D that, select our Marquee Tool, and once again select our blood splash. Make sure you are in blood once again. Go into the image adjustments, and let's do exposure, and bring the exposure down like so, and correct the gamma to about this color. And now if we save it as a JPEG, Photoshop Texture 1, this thing will have a blood splash on the floor now. And 3ds Max updates everything, and you can see it. It's right there. So quite good and quite simple. You can this way alter your textures in the way you want. Maybe add rusty and dusty areas to your things with cracks, and cracks are just done in the same way, so all you need is to somehow delete the white parts around the cracks if it's not in PNG transparent format. So if your image is with white areas, we have to delete them by either working with the magic wand tool or just select the color range, and the color range is better. Delete all the white stuff and then just use the cracks, maybe alter the exposure and the color balance, but apart from that you're ready to go. Once again, I would like to remind you that this is a very basic way of texturing a model, because we let 3ds Max to decide where to cut the model at, and real pros just set it by themselves by drawing seams, and you're going to witness this when we make a character and when we texture it later. So till then.